In this episode, we are counting down the top 10 stories from Diogenes the Cynic, including one where he rolls in the mud, and another where he overturns a table at Plato's feast. You don't want to miss this must-see episode. Welcome to Ancient Wisdom.
Number 10. Plucking a chicken. One day, Diogenes the Cynic, known for his eccentric behavior and disdain for societal norms, found himself in a bustling and crowded theater in ancient Greece. The seats were tightly packed, and the audience members were seated in close quarters, each vying for their own personal space. Unperturbed by the lack of room, Diogenes confidently made his way through the rows of people, searching for a seat that suited his peculiar taste. Eventually, he settled on a spot, squeezed himself into the limited space, and took a seat. However, as he did so, the murmurs of discontent among the surrounding spectators began to grow. People started complaining about the cramped conditions, expressing their frustration at the lack of space. Diogenes, rather than acquiescing to the discomfort or attempting to appease the disgruntled crowd, decided to make a bold and unforgettable statement. Without hesitation, he stood up and reached into a bag he had brought with him. From this bag, he pulled out a live chicken. Holding the squawking bird aloft, he theatrically declared to the entire audience, "This is my personal space." The unexpected and audacious move sent a wave of shock and amusement through the theater. The onlookers, initially irritated by the lack of room, found themselves momentarily taken aback by Diogenes' unorthodox response. His willingness to disrupt social norms with such irreverence and humor left the audience in a state of bemusement, blurring the lines between annoyance and entertainment. In this peculiar display, Diogenes not only made a point about personal space but also managed to inject an element of absurdity and satire into the situation. It was just one of many instances where Diogenes used unconventional methods to challenge societal expectations and provoke thought in the most unexpected places.
Don't be square. This is the ancient wisdom that Diogenes seemingly shares in this story. Today, expressing dissent or questioning norms can be effective when done thoughtfully and constructively, fostering critical thinking and prompting conversations about societal expectations. Do you agree?
Number 9. Interrupting a lecture. On a day bathed in the ancient Greek sunlight, a renowned philosopher stood before a captivated audience, passionately expounding on the virtues of moderation and self-control. The atmosphere was charged with intellectual fervor as the philosopher articulated his thoughts on leading a balanced and restrained life. However, in the midst of this solemn discourse, the irreverent figure of Diogenes the Cynic burst onto the scene. Known for his disdain for social conventions and his penchant for challenging established norms, Diogenes couldn't resist the opportunity to disrupt the philosophical proceedings. Without any regard for the decorum of the lecture hall, Diogenes abruptly stepped forward, cutting through the air with his characteristic audacity. He looked at the philosopher and, with a sly grin, interjected, "If you want to talk about temperance, you should have stayed at home with your wife instead of lecturing to others." The room fell into a momentary hush as the audience, accustomed to the serious nature of philosophical discussions, processed the unexpected intrusion. Diogenes' words, however, hung in the air, injecting an element of raw reality into the otherwise abstract discourse on virtue. The philosopher, initially taken aback by the directness of Diogenes' comment, quickly regained composure. He attempted to steer the conversation back to the loftier ideals of temperance and self-control. Yet, Diogenes, undeterred by the attempts to restore order, continued to challenge the speaker, forcing the audience to confront the incongruities between philosophical theory and the messy complexities of human existence.
Call out hypocrisy. This is the ancient wisdom that Diogenes seems to share in this story. He challenges us to live life consistently with our principles, and by humorously exposing potential hypocrisy in those who preach virtue, he prompts us to question our own sincerity, encouraging a critical examination of societal norms and ethical values. Is this also your interpretation of his teaching?
Number 8. Diogenes rolls in the mud. In the ancient streets of Athens, where the great minds of philosophy engaged in intellectual pursuits, the unconventional figure of Diogenes the Cynic was known for challenging societal norms and embracing a simpler, more primal existence. One day, his eccentric behavior took an unexpected turn as witnesses observed him rolling in the mud. The onlookers, baffled and intrigued, couldn't help but question Diogenes about the peculiar spectacle. Undeterred by their confusion, Diogenes responded with his characteristic wit, declaring, "I am trampling upon the pride of Plato." This seemingly bizarre act carried a profound message. Plato, a prominent philosopher of the time and a student of Socrates, advocated for the pursuit of knowledge and the refinement of the soul. By rolling in the mud, Diogenes symbolically rejected the lofty ideals and intellectual pride associated with Plato's teachings.
Intellectual arrogance be damned. This seemingly is the ancient wisdom Diogenes expresses by rolling in the mud. It symbolized his rejection of intellectual elitism and a call to embrace a more primal, unpretentious existence and authentic living. Do you think this is true today? Before we continue down our list, let's briefly revisit who Diogenes the Cynic was. Diogenes the Cynic was an ancient Greek philosopher and one of the most notable figures of the Cynic school, which emphasized simple living, self-sufficiency, and the rejection of material wealth. Diogenes is believed to have been born in Sinope, modern-day Sinop, Turkey, around 412 or 404 BCE and died in Corinth in 323 BCE. Diogenes is often remembered for his unconventional and ascetic lifestyle. He rejected social conventions, criticized the values and customs of society, and sought to live in accordance with nature. He believed that virtue was better revealed in action than in theory, and he used his own life as a living example of his philosophy. Diogenes is perhaps best known for his use of humor and wit to convey philosophical ideas. Despite his eccentricities, Diogenes' ideas had a lasting influence on philosophy. His emphasis on virtue, simplicity, and living in harmony with nature left a legacy that resonated with later philosophical movements. Now back to the countdown.
Number 7. Diogenes overturns the table at Plato's feast. In the bustling city of Athens, where opulence and intellectual discussions intermingled, Diogenes the Cynic found himself at a banquet hosted by the esteemed philosopher Plato. The air was thick with the aroma of lavish dishes, and guests reclined on luxurious couches, engaging in sophisticated conversations. However, Diogenes, unimpressed by the grandeur surrounding him, walked into the banquet with an air of nonchalance. As he observed the extravagance, a determination to challenge the excess and indulgence welled up within him. Without hesitation, he strolled over to the lavishly set table, adorned with fine foods and wines, and with a swift and deliberate motion, Diogenes overturned the table, sending dishes and goblets crashing to the floor. The room fell into a momentary hush as guests stared in disbelief at this audacious act. Diogenes, standing amidst the chaos, nonchalantly remarked, "What I can do, so can a dog." Undeterred by the stunned expressions around him, Diogenes then settled on the floor and began to consume his meal with the same simplicity he advocated.
Down with the elite. Diogenes seemed to say so with his shocking behavior. He rejected extravagance and advocated living a life in accordance with one's needs. Do you agree that this is Diogenes' nugget of ancient wisdom that he shared in this story? Let us know what you think in the comments.
Number 6. Defining man in the marketplace. In the vibrant city of Corinth, where the clamor of the marketplace echoed through the narrow streets, the enigmatic philosopher Diogenes the Cynic found himself faced with a question that sought to unravel the essence of humanity. Asked to define what distinguishes a man from other creatures, Diogenes, never one to provide conventional answers, embarked on a peculiar journey to illustrate the idiosyncrasies of human folly. With his characteristic wit and irreverence, Diogenes made his way to the bustling marketplace. As he navigated through the throngs of people and vendors, he observed the comings and goings of daily life. Finally, he halted at a well-trodden path, strewn with stones smoothed by countless footsteps. Gesturing towards the ground, Diogenes pointed at various objects in the marketplace and declared, "Man is the only animal that trips over the same stone twice." The statement, though seemingly straightforward, carried a profound and satirical message about the quirks of human behavior. The onlookers, initially taken aback by the philosopher's unorthodox approach, soon found themselves pondering the deeper implications of his words. Diogenes, through his simple yet thought-provoking gesture, invited reflection on the inherent imperfections of human nature and the cyclical patterns of behavior that define the human experience.
We are all flawed. This seems to be Diogenes' message, that we should learn to accept with humility our inherent imperfections. As we all make the same mistakes again and again, he invites us to consider that these are the quirks and challenges that define the human experience. Do you agree?
Number 5. Diogenes flips an insult by claiming to be a dog. In the bustling streets of Athens, where the echoes of philosophical debates reverberated, Diogenes the Cynic, famed for his sharp wit and unorthodox lifestyle, found himself on the receiving end of an insult. A passerby, perhaps aiming to provoke or belittle him, called Diogenes a dog, a term that was not only intended as an insult but also carried cultural connotations. Rather than reacting defensively, Diogenes, true to his penchant for turning the tables with humor, calmly responded, "It is you who say it, but it is fate that made me so." In this witty retort, he not only acknowledged the insult but also reframed it with a philosophical twist, attributing his supposed dog-like nature to the whims of destiny rather than taking offense.
Be you, unapologetically. By embracing the label dog, Diogenes cleverly subverted the intended insult, turning it into a badge of honor. Diogenes seemed to model the virtues of staying indifferent to other people's opinion of yourself. Is this the correct interpretation?
Number 4. Diogenes is criticized for eating in public. In the bustling streets of ancient Athens, the renowned philosopher Diogenes the Cynic was known for his unapologetic approach to life. Embracing a philosophy that rejected societal norms and emphasized simplicity, Diogenes found himself at the center of attention one day while partaking in a basic human necessity, eating. Seated in the marketplace, Diogenes enjoyed his meal with a nonchalant demeanor. However, his act of public dining drew criticism from onlookers who believed such behavior was beneath the dignity of a philosopher. Undeterred by the disapproving glances and comments, Diogenes responded to his critics with a characteristic blend of wit and defiance. "If taking breakfast be nothing out of order, why do you find fault with me for taking it in the marketplace?" he retorted. With this simple yet pointed response, Diogenes challenged the societal expectations surrounding public behavior. He questioned the arbitrary distinctions between private and public actions, highlighting the hypocrisy of criticizing someone for fulfilling a basic need in a shared space.
Haters gonna hate. Don't be bound by the constraints of societal judgments. Is this the right way to interpret the story? Tell us what you think by posting in the comments below. Before we share the remaining top 3 stories, please leave us a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support goes a long way to helping us research and compile more ancient wisdom. And now, back to the countdown.
Number 3. Diogenes begs from a statue. In the vibrant streets of Athens, where philosophical musings and societal norms collided, Diogenes the Cynic engaged in an act that left both onlookers baffled. On this particular day, witnesses were puzzled to see Diogenes kneeling before a statue, his hand outstretched as if seeking alms. Curiosity piqued, someone dared to approach the philosopher, questioning the purpose behind his seemingly absurd behavior. Without missing a beat, Diogenes responded with a twinkle in his eye, "I am practicing the art of being refused." This seemingly whimsical act carried a deeper philosophical message. Diogenes, ever the iconoclast, used humor as a tool to challenge societal expectations. By begging from an inanimate statue, he not only mocked the superficiality of social conventions, but also highlighted his commitment to living authentically, even if it meant embracing the unconventional.
Don't take yourself too seriously. Diogenes begging from a statue teaches us to use humor to challenge societal norms and emphasizes the importance of authenticity over superficial conformity. Do you agree?
Number 2. The lantern search for an honest man. In the bustling streets of Athens, the enigmatic figure of Diogenes the Cynic embarked on an unusual quest, a quest for honesty in a world he perceived as steeped in moral ambiguity. To underscore his skepticism about the moral character of people, Diogenes decided to repeat a peculiar ritual, carrying a lantern during the broad daylight. Onlookers couldn't help but be perplexed by the sight of Diogenes, known for his unorthodox behavior, strolling through the sunlit city with a lantern in hand. When questioned about this seemingly absurd practice, Diogenes responded with his characteristic bluntness. "I am looking for an honest man," he declared, "but, alas, I have yet to find one." The repetition of this symbolic act wasn't merely a quirk of Diogenes' eccentricity, rather, it served as a powerful commentary on his deep-seated skepticism regarding the integrity of humanity.
Honesty is a rarity. Diogenes, by carrying a lantern in daylight, challenged societal norms and symbolized the rarity of true honesty. By his act, he seemed to question the prevailing moral climate and invite reflection on values in a morally murky world. Do you agree with Diogenes' bleak description of our society?
Number 1. Diogenes meets Alexander the Great. In the sun-drenched city of Corinth, a meeting unfolded that would encapsulate the clash between two extraordinary figures of antiquity: Alexander the Great, the mighty conqueror, and Diogenes the Cynic, the unorthodox philosopher living in a humble barrel. As Alexander, with the weight of his vast empire on his shoulders, approached Diogenes, he offered a gesture of goodwill, asking if there was anything he could do for the philosopher. Diogenes, residing in his simple abode, unimpressed by the grandeur of the conqueror's presence, responded with a touch of irreverence that echoed his core philosophy. With a gaze unyielding, Diogenes retorted, "Yes, stand out of my sunlight." This seemingly audacious request was more than a mere play of words. It was a profound statement reflecting Diogenes' disregard for authority and his unwavering commitment to his own values.
Question authority. In his interaction with Alexander, Diogenes showcased indifference to the conqueror's might, rejecting societal norms and asserting personal freedom. His straightforward request to stand aside from the sunlight seemed to symbolize a refusal to be overshadowed by authority and the symbols of power. There you have it, ancient wisdom from 10 fascinating stories and lessons from Diogenes the Cynic. Let us know which of the stories we shared did you enjoy the most by letting us know in the comments below. Feel free as well to tell us which ancient philosopher would you like us to share stories of next. Thank you for your time, but before you go, always remember that the wisdom from the ages past, although ancient, still resonates as truth for today. Until our next episode, stay curious, stay enlightened.